The 2022 Denver Broncos have been a tale of two different teams, the amazing defense and the horrible offense. And I'm here to break it down as to what's wrong with their offense and how they will attempt to fix it. To talk about the Denver Broncos offense, there are two stats that need to be brought up. Up first, the fact the Broncos would be 9-2 if they could score 18 points every game in regulation. But how many points do they average per game, if you're wondering? 14.3 points per game. 14! No team has had this low of a point scored per game since the 2000 Cleveland Browns, who averaged roughly 10 points per game. The winless Lions and Browns scored more points per game on average than the 2022 Denver Broncos. That's how bad it's been this year. Now, it's unfair to put all the blame on Russell Wilson being the major part of the Broncos offense, but he's kind of the guy that's going to get the blame because they gave up so many assets to get him, and the contract they gave him is not going to help his case. Heading into Week 13, Russell Wilson has 8 touchdowns total. He has more bathrooms in his house sitting at 12 than he does touchdowns. He's at a career low for yards per attempt, roughly at 7, but he only has 5 interceptions, which is lower than touchdowns, but it's only by 3 at Week 13. Now, I know the Broncos have had issues with their offense line this year. Wilson's been sacked 35 times. Not good, but there's a reason to the regression in the Broncos O-line, and I'd like to get to that when I'm talking about Nathaniel Hackett. Now, Wilson has had major issues at throwing the ball all over the field this year. He's been average to below average in most spots, but 20-plus yards deep on the right side, he's been one of the best in the league. But everyone else, he has struggled mightily, and it's not looking good for the Broncos' future if he can't get back on track. Now, time to talk about Nathaniel Hackett. Hackett was hired after being the offense coordinator of Aaron Rodgers' back-to-back MVP seasons. The problem with that is we don't know how much of that was Hackett and how much of that was Rodgers. Both have struggled this year, but one has clearly struggled more in Hackett. Since the start of the season, Nathaniel Hackett has handed over clock management duties to Jerry Roseberg. Hackett has also stopped calling the plays as well, which makes me ask the question, what is Hackett doing? If he isn't calling the offensive plays and he isn't doing clock management, what say does he have over the team? Does he have say over the challenges? Does he have say in who starts, or is that just reserved to the coaching's on offensive side and defensive side? Is he trying to be the CEO? So is he going to have any say, or it's just nothing at all? At this point, we have to ask, what is Hackett doing? But I can tell you the biggest mistake Hackett did make, getting rid of Mike Munchak. The Broncos' offensive line has regressed massively this year, and that's because they've lost the best offensive line coach in the game in Mike Munchak. They have struggled so much on blocking the run that they've only had one rush of 20-plus yards, and that was against the Carolina Panthers over this past weekend. The Broncos' offensive line has been horrible. He brought in Barry Butcher to be the offensive line coach and has regressed massively since having Mike Munchak. Nathaniel Hackett has had a lot of issues, and is at this point we got to wonder, does he even finish the season as the Broncos head coach? The Waldron family has enough money to fire him, no problem. They own Walmart, they have the money to buy him out. Now, how do you fix this offense? Well, you do an overhaul in the offense coaching staff. That coach needs to go, and you need to bring in someone who won't touch the defense as a head coach. Because they have been playing lights out, and they deserve every credit they can get. Now, who is someone I would hire? Well, it's pretty simple. Pete Carmichael Jr. He is the OC of the New Orleans Saints. He's been the offense coordinator of the Saints since 2009, and he's been with the Saints organization as a QB coach from 2006 to 2008. He's a guy who's worked with a smaller quarterback who had issues seeing the middle of the field like Russell Wilson does, but had great seasons and almost MVP caliber seasons and also won a Super Bowl. But there are 3 guys I'm worried about hiring as a head coach. The first one would be Kellen Moore. I don't trust guys who work with elite quarterbacks and have their stats as coaches look much better than they are. You see this with Nathaniel Hackett. I believe it's the case with every coach who works with a great quarterback. Not saying that you can't be a great head coach, but I question you a lot more than I will of a person like Sean McVay, who makes Kirk Cousins look elite. The other guy I'm worried about is Brian Schottenheimer. Russell Wilson's former offense coordinator in Seattle from 2018 to 2020. Now, Pete Carroll fired him as the offense coordinator because there were not adjustments made. It was a very Russell Wilson show, but it worked for a certain point. The Seahawks had a good offense up until the late end of his time in Seattle. The playoff game against the Rams, notably, where they did not make any adjustments, sealed his fate as offense coach. Now, why would I be worried about the Broncos hiring him? He's close personal friends with Russell Wilson. They did Bible study sessions together. They're close friends, and it feels like Wilson will push for his guy to be hired as head coach. Now, why do you not do that? Russell Wilson's not earned the right to do that in Denver. You could say he earned the right in Seattle, perhaps. He won a Super Bowl there. He had many great seasons there. But this season, Denver has been horrible to the point that he should have zero say in who is the coach of this football team next season. Now, the third and final guy I'm worried about would be Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien, I think, is a competent head coach, but I don't think he's an NFL head coach. I think he belongs in college football like a lot of Belichick assistants do. He's a very tough-headed, egoless player coach. He doesn't like the egos. He got rid of DeAndre Hopkins. He had issues with Jadeveon Clowney. Not saying they all had egos, but in Bill O'Brien's mind, they did. I think Bill O'Brien works in the college game. He did have success at NFL level, though, admittedly. He won many division titles, and he took the Texans with bad quarterback play to many postseason berths. But Russell Wilson clashed with Pete Carroll, a guy who doesn't really have a major ego. He has somewhat, but nowhere on the level of Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien was handed the reins of GM and completely destroyed the Texans team because he thought he could win with anybody. He could not, and that ended up hurting them in the long run majorly. I'd like to thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, I'd appreciate if you hit the like button. If you disagree with me, go down in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to debate you down there. Tune in next Wednesday as I bring you a video about the Indianapolis Colts and what's going on with them. Is Jeff Saturday the guy? Do they need to go hire a new guy? And how much say does Jim Irsay have over everything? Tune in Wednesday, and thank you everyone for watching, and have a happy holidays.